This project is 13 years in the making, and we're down to the last 20 minutes before we reveal it to my father. He still thinks it's a rust bucket in pieces, but we pulled it off and got it back together. And here I am cruising down the road like we did when we were kids, with all the windows open. My brothers and I, my dad, just growing up in this car.
So basically I'm going to start by going through and getting the main quarter panel cut off. So I'll just start here with my the cut bit on my air hammer, and I'll just cut all the way around, just staying so I don't hit any of the flanges there. I'll cut up and around and up as close as I can to there, through there, and then I'll cut up around the wheel well since we're saving the wheel well on that side. And then I'll go back after with my grinder and grind off all the spot welds and then hit that off so I can save all the original metal that I'm going to keep. I'll just go through and grind on each one of those spot welds and grind it through, and then come back with the air hammer and hit it off, and it'll just pop right off. Okay. And if you don't, it'll rip holes all throughout, like the roof structure and the wheel tubs if you don't grind them down. Grind all of these and throughout the whole thing underneath. We go and grind those and then peel that down. Yeah, you see this flange right here? Yep. There's spot welds all down that. I'll go grind those spot welds, and I'll come from this side with the air hammer and I'll pop that off and peel this. So this isn't getting cut, it's just this is coming off right the back. You can see it's two pieces. Right back there.
When a customer brings me the car, I know what the customer wants, but I always end up putting way more time into it. At the end, I need to be happy with my work and what I'm putting out, the quality. If it's not there, guess what? I'm gonna redo it. And that's gonna be on my time, my dollar. I want it to look good, my name's on it, so that's one thing that I really do, is put more time than what the customer actually wants to put in. At no extra charge. I have to be happy with it.
So we made some noticeable progress here, dude. Installed the 8 3/4 and the 70 Roadrunner, the one we're building with Aaron to surprise his dad. Put all the brakes together, axles in. Pretty cool. Love the progress. I love seeing this stuff come together.
Hey!
Epic day, bro.
Epic.
Getting that thing out of the corner.
This thing's been sitting there for
She looks pretty.
11 years.
11 years, wow.
Well, at least in this garage for 11 years.
So we're gonna take it, and Hemi Bill's gonna stick that sucker together with everything else and all the parts here, and
yeah,
and get that stuffed in the old 70 Roadrunner. You excited, bro?
dude, I'm beyond excited.
Dad's gonna be freaking shocked. Does he know yet?
No, he has no clue. Every time he comes over, he says, "Where's my car?" And I say, "It's at my friend's house. We're working on it. It's gonna be a while." He thinks it needs metal work. He thinks it's a shell that needs metal work still.
Yeah, and at this point we have the full painted roller interior almost finished up. All the trim on it. Now we just have to do the suspension, engine, transmission, rear end. But we're on the, I wouldn't say the downhill slope yet, but we're closer to it than we were.
First time for everything, right?
Right.
That's why it kind of started, it almost tried the first couple times. Fire in the hole.
Time ever. Cruising around Troy's property.
This is officially the first drive outside the property after completely restoring this car.
Right. Completely.
So we're gonna add this into your video, whatever you're doing right now for your dad.
Collected it all.
So then also, this is the very first time Aaron's ever driven this car, because he was a little kid when his dad had it, and when he was, what, you were 16, 17, 18, he either didn't let you drive it or it wasn't driving anymore.
He wouldn't let me drive it, and he wasn't, and he was not driving it that much. Gosh, it runs
Flawless.
It really is.
Yeah, Sergio and Bill and Brandon did an amazing job on this particular build, and you know, they do their best work on everything, but this one means a little bit more, you know. It's going to family, it's going to people we know, and you know, and passed down through the generations. This will be with your kids, you know. Hopefully one will fall in love with it more than the others, or the 3, 5, or whatever kids you know want it, that they can split it up and be nice about it. So but yeah,
Brakes are working.
no shit, that would suck. Well, you never know. You know, when you take, this is the test miles, dude. Anything can happen, you know. And so that's why you don't really want to be out in like some major, like crazy stuff. So, which is the front of my house. So when we leave, we're automatically in the danger zone, because it's just crazy traffic out here.
It feels just badass. I mean, we don't have an alignment yet.
I was wondering about that. I was looking at that and I was like, those wheels look a little bit squatted, but that makes sense then. I wasn't sure if that had happened yet.
Yeah.
You probably should have just taken it right over there after. Well, they needed the seats in it, because we just got the seats in it finally with the seat belts
Just
today.
right now,
That's what we were waiting on.
Sergio told me he was putting them in, and I'm like, I'll be over there.
Yeah. So this is the first time he's getting gas since 1994 in this car. I think that's longest it's ever taken you just to get your credit card out of your pocket?
I'm like, my mind is racing right now.
So awesome. So awesome. So awesome. First tank of gas. I don't know if I would do it full because if the gas gauge doesn't work, they have to drain it all out. So just put in like 5 gallons. Kind of a crazy deal, huh? Because like you've never even driven this car.
Right.
And then you haven't been even driven in it since we graduated high school, essentially.
Pretty much,
right?
yeah.
Just after
Pretty
that.
much, yeah.
And now all of a sudden here 30 years later, 31 years later,
Driving it down.
you're driving it for the first time ever.
Ever. That's so wild. We are about to turn on to my childhood street, where this car sat in the driveway for 42 years. This is the moment. Well, Dad, I appreciate you letting me come to spend a little time with you and do this little interview. I wanted to ask, I know this is a legacy video. We tend to talk about the whole life story, but I've been more interested lately really in your military service. And I was hoping that we could just start with that. Is that okay if you kind of tell me a little bit about, how did you get into the Army? Did you sign up, or were you drafted, or?
No, it's funny you should be asking about that, because I've been thinking about it this week. Anyway, when I was 19 or 19 and a half or something like that, somehow I knew, or the word had gotten out, that they were drafting guys between 18 and 24 months after they graduate. And I don't know how I got that information, but I had it. And I went to downtown Oakland. The post office, the second floor is where the recruiter was. And I walked up the stairs, and on the first landing, there was this wall that had brochures for all the military service, Coast Guard, Air Force, Navy. And there must have been 100 or 150 brochures. There was a row, 10 or 15 across and 10 up of all these brochures. And somehow I focused on the one brochure, I think it was the third row from the bottom, somewhere in the center, and it said you can be a pilot without a college education, without your university degree. And I picked that up, and it was a 2-year enlistment with a flight school option, which meant you enlisted for 2 years and you'd get to go to flight school. If you failed flight school, you just served your 2 years, which is what the draft was. You were getting drafted for 2 years anyway. So I took that brochure and I walked up the next flight of stairs into the office where there's dozens of recruiters, and the front desk was an Army recruiter. And of course, I was fresh meat for him. So he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm about ready to get drafted. I'm looking for opportunities." And he said, "What do you want to do?" And I gave him the brochure and said, "I'd like to try this." And he said, "Well, you got to go through a test and a physical and oral examination." But I said, if I pass all that, am I guaranteed the school? He said, "Yeah." So I signed up. I took all the tests and passed everything. And he said I'd been accepted. And within a week of taking those tests, I got my draft notice. So I called him up on the phone and said, "Yeah, I'd like to go into your program, but I just got drafted." And he said, "Bring the letter down to me. I'll take care of it." So I took the letter down to him. The next thing I got was in basic training. I got a card from the draft board that says I was 1S instead of 1A, or some alphabetical number like that said you were already in the service, you couldn't be drafted. But it was really strange. I mean, there were hundreds of brochures, and I don't know how I focused on the one third row from the bottom, but that's how I got into the program.
So what year did you go into the flight program?
My military service started on June 14th, 1968. That's when I went into the service.
And did you start flight school right away?
No, you went to basic training. You went to 8 weeks of basic training, and then they and that was in Fort Polk, Louisiana. And then they sent us to Alabama, no, to Texas, Fort Walters in Texas, where you did your primary flight training, and that lasted 3 or 4 or 5 months. And then they sent you to Alabama, Fort Rucker, Alabama, to finish your training. And going through all this training, the rumor was being passed that our class was going to go to Germany, not to Vietnam. Our class was because they needed pilots in Germany. Well, that was a bad rumor. The minute we graduated, we got all orders except one guy who was he was prior military. He was registered as a sole surviving son. So as a sole surviving son, he got out of going to Vietnam. He went to Korea, but when he was in Korea, he was flying OH-13 observation helicopter, and he flew over the North Korean border and got shot down. And we all got a kick out of that because he was the one guy that was supposed to get away with it all. Anyway, there was a big ruckus about that.
So when did you get to Vietnam then?
About June the 3rd of it would have been 1969 until June the 3rd of 1970.
And did your whole flight school come with you, or any of the guys from your flight school? Like, did you already know people?
Yeah, we all got separated, but we went over on a flight. You met a lot of the guys on the plane that was in your class. They sent you to a replacement battalion, and then from there you were shipped out to the different organizations. I was sent to the 68th Assault Helicopter Company. That's how I started my tour.
And what was your job? Were you bringing medevac type stuff? Are you flying in missions to do attacks, or?
We did combat assaults. We worked with both ARVN, which is Army of the Republic of Vietnam, and Green Beret and LRPS, Long Range Patrol, and we did mostly combat assaults and then single ship missions.
Did you experience any hard times, flying a helicopter? Did you feel like you were a sitting target in the sky, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was scary when, the first time, I think it was my third flight in country, somehow we got caught out in the dark. It was after 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and we were flying back through a storm and being buffeted all around the whole place. And the violence was so much I hadn't experienced before. I started to call out the gauges, telling the pilot was flying it, that all the instruments are in the green, stuff like that. And then I saw the needles split, and I thought we had lost the engine connection to the rotor. But no, it was just violent shaking that caused things to move around.
And so were you a captain or a pilot? I mean, or
Warrant officer.
You're a warrant officer, and does that make you in charge of a airship?
Well, you start out. They called you a Peter pilot. Then you became a co-pilot. Then you became a pilot. Then you became an aircraft commander. I was a co-pilot for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and then they made me a pilot, which means I could fly a helicopter with a group of helicopters, a formation. And then after you did that for a while, they made you an aircraft commander, and you would go out and do single ship missions or combat assaults or flight lead and stuff like that.
What was the highest position you reached on your Vietnam tour?
CW2, Chief Warrant Officer 2. You got that after 1 year.
And did that make you a lead?
No, I was made a lead before then. It was just experience. As guys were getting rotated out, you advanced higher and higher. So, and I got it quite early because I hit it just right when other guys were being assigned out. So they promoted me rather quickly, where other guys came in after me and they went 6, 7, 8 months before being a pilot or aircraft commander. And they got one guy, Dejukits, got very, very bitter about it, that he wasn't a command pilot.
Would you be willing to share like any bad situations that you remember? If it's too much, it's okay.
Uh, well, that one in the storm was pretty harrowing. And then my roommate was Lewis, a black man, Lewis Brown was his name. And we were scheduled to fly, and he flew in the smoke ship. Smoke ship was a ship that when we went in for combat assault, they flew around and put smoke all the way around so the enemy couldn't see us. And he cut a tree too close and did a loop and bang. And the pilot, this was like my third flight in country, third time I was flying. And Robert Montgomery was the pilot, and he was the smoke ship pilot, but he was assigned to fly trail. And the smoke ship went down, and people started to call on the radio that the smoke ship was down. And he said he was going after it. He picked the helicopter up, hovered over, flew over to fairly close, but there was a tree line between me and the downed ship, and I couldn't see it. I could just see smoke bellowing away from it. But he sat down there and he turned to me, say, "We're going after the crew. You stay here." So him, the crew chief, and the gunner, they went out to go get the guys in the airplane. And I was in Vietnam all by myself in a combat zone. And it was...
On your third trip out.
Yeah, my third mission out. And I hope someday I get to see him at a reunion and tell him that was a dumb thing to do.
Right.
And I was a rookie. I didn't know anything and whatever. And he came back with my roommate, Lewis Brown, and they put him in the back. And the company commander went down there and picked a guy up. So when they got in the ship, he got in the ship and he started doing this. So I picked the ship up, turned around, started to head back toward Long Bend, which is where medevac was, even though I didn't know where the exact spot was. And he got buckled in. He told me to keep flying. Then he eventually took the ship, and we took him into a medevac unit. But that was, yeah. He said, "You stay here. We're going after the crew." And so I didn't have any machine gun gunners with me. It was just me and the helicopter in the middle of Vietnam, in an open field.
What was one of the last critical situations you remember before you checked out of there?
Well, there was one where it's hard to explain because there's so many technical things going on.
Right.
But the company commander, we were doing combat assaults, and he specifically asked or told us we're going for a maximum effort. Means take as many guys as you could take in. And the helicopters we had, some of them weren't very good. I mean, you couldn't even pick it up to a hover if you had 4 or 5 guys in there. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of technical things that go on. But he said maximum effort. So I loaded up with everything we could. And I was flying, I was a B flight commander. So I had 4 ships in front of me, 4 ships behind me. And we were doing the combat assault. And I was flying, fortunately, and I was behind the lead ship. And we got down to about 8 feet from the ground, and it was water. It looked like a rice paddy that we'd gone in hundreds of times before with no problem. And so we were coming in from a flight, and we were carrying ARVN troops, Vietnamese troops. And the guy in the Vietnamese troop when he was about 8 feet above the water, he jumped out, and he was carrying a radio. And I could tell that he was up so high because I could see where he cleared the helicopter, and there was light above him and light below him. He was submerged. I could see bubbles coming out. And the minute I saw him disappear, I pulled power in because I couldn't hover. You know, if I got to a hover level, we would go into the water too. So I tried to look at ways that I could get out of this. and I looked to my left, and there was an ARVN troop, and I believe he was the lieutenant of the unit going in there. He was holding on to the skids of the helicopter. You know, like you remember, like you carry a pig.
Yep.
He was holding on to the skids of the helicopter, and the helicopter shuddered, came down, and came back up again. When it came up, he wasn't on there anymore. It crushed him. And then everybody went on the radio and said, "Don't let him off. It's too deep. We can't let him off." And we lost radio discipline. Everybody was shouting that. I was running out of power. I literally had seconds to get out of there, but I couldn't go because I was in between a bunch of helicopters, and I keyed up the mic and I said 3 times, "We're out of power back here. We've got to go now. I'm out of power back here. We got to go now. I'm out of," and I repeated it 3 times because once they heard me talking, the other guys would be quiet. And so they took off, we took off, but it was one of the closest calls that I had.
How did you get out of there? Because you said you had guys in front of you. They started moving, and you were
Yeah, when I said, "We're out of power back here, we've got to go now." So he started to move, and the ship on his right went to the right like this, which left an opening. Because if I was stuck behind him, I wouldn't have made it, because the rotor wash from his helicopter would have drove my helicopter into the water. But they, fortunately, Chalk 2, I think it was Chalk 2, moved to the right. He moved to the left a little bit, and there was an opening for me to fit in the middle. And we got out of there. You know, and I never heard of what happened to the guys we left behind.
Wow, that's had to be hard. I want to talk. We'll come back to that, but I want to talk about our project car of almost 13 years now. Because at what point were you in Vietnam and deciding to order a 70 Plymouth Roadrunner?
Because muscle cars was the era I grew up in.
Right.
And one of the Mika Moto shows, a Corvette that had 5,000 or 6,000 miles was made by another Vietnam vet that ordered it from Vietnam. That was the thing. That was our generation, having a muscle car.
You think it was a form of therapy for you guys coming out? Or was it just the next best thing next to flying a helicopter?
Well, it's interesting. You didn't care. I didn't care what it cost. I wanted one. And I gave the instructions to your mother what I wanted. I could have ordered it in Vietnam, is what I should have done. And then I might have got the 426 Hemi. But that was just our generation. And
right.
I know many of guys that were in Vietnam, I'm sure they ordered Mustangs or ordered whatever car, their GTOs or whatever was their favorite car.
Why do you think the car has had so much sentimental value to us? Just the nostalgia of muscle car and the connection to the military.
It was my dream car.
Right.
You know, it was my dream car that had everything in it I wanted.
And you ordered it special.
Yeah.
Why didn't you order power steering?
I don't remember. Took away power. Same reason I didn't order air conditioning.
Air conditioning, right.
But especially with the Hemi, I don't think you could get air conditioning with the Hemi.
Not with the Hemi, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to take power away from the engine, so I didn't get power steering.
So, you know, it was almost 13 years ago. It's 12 and a half years ago, June, I don't know, 12 and a half years ago, that I finally convinced you to let us try to restore the car. We'll jump around a little bit here, but and then you remember I hired that guy, which I'm not going to say his name. I don't want to give him that. That was a con artist, right? And you know, after that car sat in that driveway for the better part of 45 years, you know, I don't know, except for a couple of years at Michael's.
Was it that long?
Yeah.
No.
Through 2012. So what is that, 47 years? You know, with a couple of years that went to Michael's and a couple of years or a year or so it went to Tony's shop. And,
Yeah.
and then it ended up back there. But you allowed me to make that decision, and I hired that guy. And it turned out he was a Ponzi scheme guy that was just taking in cars, taking them apart, and taking people's money. When I found out what the guy was doing, I went immediately and started telling the guy, I don't have any money. You're going to have to bring the car home. And I knew I was going to get it in pieces because they had taken it all apart. And they had sent the motor off to a machine shop, and talking to these other shops that they would use, they would tell me how they would just drop things off and they would leave them there and they'd stay there. It was quite the Ponzi scheme, and that guy ended up going to prison, not for long enough, but he sure did ruin a lot of people's lives. A lot of family heirloom cars that he was responsible for, and just not a good guy, but he put on a good show when he showed up with that giant truck. He had us fooled. Well, and then, over the years, I've met people like Earl Ortiz that you've met, and he let you drive his Hemi Roadrunner. And you said you wanted blue. How come we ended up with green?
Your mother got it.
Yeah.
She said green was Army green.
And you, of course, you would like that, right? It was the last color you wanted,
Yeah.
right? But anyways, when I met Earl and I had the car back, I really felt responsible for choosing that guy. It's what he did is not my responsibility, but the fact that he fooled me, because I thought I had done my homework and I believed he knew what he was doing, and to some degree he did. He knew how to talk the talk, but I felt responsible. And for a long time, I've really kind of felt hopeless with the car, and I happened to meet Earl. And he happens to be the auto shop leader there at Los Medanos, and he was the first guy to give me hope and to make me feel like, okay, this car isn't going to be a stalled project, So I was grateful for that. He let me use his welder, told me what to do, and he knows these cars inside and out. And we worked on it. If you've seen it in the garage in pieces, I sent you photos of it with the entire back of the car off, so I got all the rust out of it. I know that was that a little traumatizing to see that photo?
No.
Oh, good. And then COVID happens, and who knows what's going to happen with the family business, and I'm crazy busy and stuff. And then I meet Troy, and who had been following on Instagram. I don't know, do you even know the story that I've been following Troy on Instagram, and he'd been hashtagging Roadrunner, 70 Roadrunner, Hemi Roadrunner, all these things, and he's all over the country. And he's all over the country, but at the same time, he's on the West Coast too. And I just kept watching him, and one day I actually saw Mount Diablo in the background when he was doing a test drive from his home. And I realized he lived by me, and turns out he lives about 8 minutes from me. And I couldn't believe it, because this guy was all over the place. So I had hit a point with the Roadrunner where I needed some additional help. And I never told you this, but I actually took the Roadrunner to a guy in town that was referred to me. And as soon as I got over there with the Roadrunner to talk about the quarter panel that had been pushed in, and this guy walked around it scratching his head going, oh, I don't know. I'm not really a Mopar guy. And I'm stressed out because I've already gone through getting the car back, and I've been working on the car, and we were making progress. And so out of the blue, I just messaged Troy, and I said, hey, I live by you, and I got this car, and my dad was, got it out of the he was coming out of the military and got it. And he was a pilot in Vietnam. Kind of told him a little background. And I said, it's at this guy's shop. It just got there, and I'm not confident this guy can do the job. And to Troy's credit, he said, I'll go take a look at it. And he walked in there to this other guy's shop with me to look at the Roadrunner, and he walks around it. And
how'd you get it to the shop?
I had it towed. He walks around it, and he goes, yeah, this is nothing. Yeah, we can fix this. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay. And the other guy saw him and actually happened to knew him, the guy that owned the shop. But I didn't care if I was offending people at that point, because that has a lot of sentimental value. So anyways, Troy looked around at it, and he said, it's not a big deal. And he said, we don't really do customer cars. They just do their own cars, and they don't. He's not a shop. He just loves cars, mostly Mopar, all cars, but mostly Mopar. But he said to me, We can do it, and I'll do it.
What's the matter?
Hold on. Backstory is Troy loves the military. And so he says, we'll do the car. I said, okay, how much? He said, your dad is a veteran. I don't need to make money on him. So within days, he said, if you just buy the parts, which I had most of them from AMD, I already ordered them, and just pay my guy, Brandon. This young guy is amazing. He is amazing. He's not doing metal work now. It's unfortunate, but he said, you just buy the parts, you pay my guy. And within days, the car was, moved to his shop. And Brandon proceeded to work on the car. And that picture that I sent you is not from 3 weeks ago. It's probably from like 4 years ago. And the entire back of the car has been redone. And he didn't have to do that, Through that, I gained a friendship with Troy. And because I do production, I started telling him, man, you're doing so much stuff, we got to get you on YouTube. And that friendship developed, and all of a sudden I'm traveling around the country with Troy, and we're making Mopar's 5150 YouTube videos. He has an amazing team. Sergio that does interior, Hemi Bill that does the mechanics. I'd already bought most of the parts, and just out of the kindness of his heart, as I was doing these videos, loving doing the videos and traveling around and going to the car shows and everything, it's like a dream job, He built the car.
It's still in pieces, though, isn't it?
No, it's done.
It's done? It's completely restored?
Yeah.
What about the interior?
It's all done. Sergio did a beautiful job.
You never took a picture of it?
I've taken a lot of pictures of it.
You haven't sent them to me.
More than you know.
The last picture I got is the whole back end is apart.
I know. Yeah, I just kind of wanted it to be a surprise,
It's a surprise.
I drove it here today.
You drove it here today?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was going to let you be surprised when you walk out the door, but when you walk out the door, it's going to be our family.
What did he charge us for that? The parts the pieces must have cost something.
It's small, and the money doesn't matter. I'm not worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not worried about it, but the car is done. And if you're ready, I'd like to go out and show you.
Well, when we get finished here.
Yeah. We're going to be done here because really this is really what this interview is about. And I got a video crew. As you saw, there's extra guys out there. Reggie is one of my lead guys. We're going to transition out front. I'm going to have Michael drive the car up the street.
Okay. Wow. We got all the kids. Is it my birthday and I just forgot? Thank you. Wow. Look at that. Thank you, Earl. God, you're.
That's great to see you.
Wow. This is magic. Yep, that's it.
If you look above the visor, grab those. I got you some aviators.
The glasses?
Yep.
Oh my God, glasses.
It doesn't have the same old stereo, but it's got a pretty nice stereo in it.
What, am I supposed to drive it?
You can, but you want to take a look at it first?
Oh boy, the clutch is heavy, isn't it?
Let's take a look at the motor. You leave it running.
Yeah.
Troy is largely responsible. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. This is a miracle. This is a miracle.
I kept a couple original things. I kept the top hat original and I kept the horn original. But we might fix them. I mean, the rest of the car looks so good. And the original license plates. Which,
You were able to get it registered with the original?
no.
It's not registered.
Nope. You'd have to be a pretty mean cop to tow us away.
I've never had so many cameras on me in my whole life.
Yeah. You want to take it for a drive?
I'm kind of nervous with it.
I could take you for a drive, or you can take it for a drive.
I think a Roadrunner.
Nope, it was only on one side.
Oh,
Right, Earl? It was only on one. That's what my brother said too. Nope, it was only on one side.
I guess I'm in bad shape if I wreck it, right?
Yeah, and there's no power steering. You need the other side of that. I'm gonna close this door. Watch your on. Why don't you do a loop and Earl will follow behind. Turn to the right. You're gonna want to turn it to the right. There you go. Earl's gonna follow us around, so give it a good turn.
No power steering.
Right. Slow it down. Wait for Earl. Don't hit anybody.
The clutch is awful high.
Well, that's the way it is.
Oh, and you kept this away from me.
Yeah. We started out getting cheated by one guy,
The
but
clutch,
through the car world.
the clutch needs to be adjusted a little bit lower.
Okay.
Okay, you got cheated by one guy.
Yeah, we started out getting cheated by one guy, but I've met a lot of amazing people through this process.
I thought Earl was going to follow us. I mean,
I think he's just getting out of the way.
Wow. I can understand why you were getting emotional there. What are you doing about the radio?
Well, I have the cover for this, and I was going to put in an old original here, and I have an incredible stereo. Actually, put it in reverse and let's turn it off. I want to show you a couple things. Well, you have to put the brake on. Keep the brake on.
Put the brake on.
Yeah, there you go. Put the clutch in and put the car in reverse so you can get it to turn off. There you go. Let's go take a look at it.
Why do we have to put it in reverse?
Why do I have to remind you?
No.
That's the way it always is supposed to be. So
To get
there's
the
a
key?
lockout.
To get the key out?
Yeah, you don't remember that?
No.
That's how long the car's been sitting.
Look at, let's have a party. We need to go somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So. I got to show you this, Dad.
Let me see if I can get a hold of Yolanda. Hey, I got my car back.
Okay, Dad, come here. I gotta show you a couple things still. Come here. So you remember years ago you gave us.
Oh.
And then I know I got an extra S on here, but I just wanted to do a customized plate for you. So we got Top Tiger 10 and 68.
How did you get my call sign?
You told it to me.
Oh, I did?
And you remember in the 80s now, you put a big stereo in the car, and do you remember I used to sit in the car and just listen to this stereo? Well, I had to do a big stereo.
No.
So this is a big stereo. And so when we get time and we go cruising and we go to lunch, I've got a Roadrunner playlist. You remember years ago I made a Roadrunner playlist and I sent it to you and you were loving it. You're like, oh, these are great. Because those were songs that we used to listen to in the 80s.
Is the tire under here?
No. We'll work on the spare.
Okay.
But we had to make a compromise for a
Thank you.
special
God,
cause.
you're
Yes.
unreal.
Well, it all
Yeah.
came together,
Yeah.
and it took a lot of people.
Yep.
Yep.
And he kept it away from me for years.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? All this time.
Yeah.
For years and years and years.
Yep.
What
And
was the actual beginning to end?
12 and a half years, basically. Yeah. 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 In fact, I'll tell you, Troy, can you come here for a moment? Troy, come here for a moment. So like I said, when this all started, or when all of that kind of fell apart, Earl was the first to give me hope that, I mean, this guy, he's legend in the world of Mopar. So, he made me feel like it was all going to be okay, and we worked through it, and we just kind of made progress. And then I told you how I met Troy, and Troy's team is the team that finished it up with Brandon doing the entire back of the car. He did all the stuff that I didn't have time to get to because I'm running the business and trying to raise kids. And he did a beautiful job. The entire back of the car has been restored or replaced.
Yeah.
Hemi Bill, which is his mechanic guy, Tony, you see him on the episodes of Mopars. Tony's a young guy that knows pretty much everything about these cars. And then Sergio did the top, the interior, the bumpers, the wink lights. I mean, Sergio did so much of this, but he just doesn't like the limelight, right?
Yeah, the windows,
Right.
windows were a lot.
Yeah, the windows were a lot, test fitting and everything. I was fortunate to find a guy in town that was almost across the street from Earl that painted the car so I could come see the car as it was getting done. And everything just kind of worked out. And as I was saying, when we were driving, we started out, being conned, by somebody with the car. And then through that, we've met amazing people, and the car's back. So I just can't believe it still. So
And there was a period of time where you were going to do it yourself.
yes,
And then you and I were going back
Right.
and forth, and I was being my teacher.
right,
role
right,
and
right. Yep.
Showing you how to do it.
Yeah, you got me through the whole trunk deal and skirting the fender wells and all of that stuff. And then COVID happened, and businesses, falling apart, and who knows where everything's going to go. And then I meet Troy, and Troy brings it in for the home run.
There's a piece of paper on here. Yeah.
I
there's
do.
a sticker that goes on.
So
there.
I do have it. It's the tire spare instructions.
Yeah.
I do have it, but for some reason the adhesive on the back isn't right, so I have another one on order. Yeah. So
Details. You must be a Mopar guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm blown away.
That's
Yeah.
crazy, huh?
Yeah.
I'm blown away by everything.
We were going to do this tomorrow, but it's going to rain. So I just didn't have it in me. I know the cars drove in the rain all the time. We drove in the rain going back and forth to, Paradise and Carson City, but I didn't have it in me to bring, after it's all completely done, to bring it in the rain and just get it messy and, and try to do it that way.
Wow.
So,
Wow. This is a wow.
well,
Yeah, she turned out nice.
I told you it was going to be a good year for us.
Yeah.
And I think we have a lot of good
I was
times
getting
ahead.
kind of concerned that you hadn't asked me for any money for the restoration on it.
You don't have to
lately.
worry about the money, Dad.
It's all taken care of.
Yeah, it's all done. So,
Where are you going to park it now?
well, the car does have to live in a garage. It's under Haggerty policy. It's going to be in my garage. It's been in my garage. I've been driving this car for almost the last 2 months. Yeah.
With a 91 registration on it.
I just figure you got to be a pretty big jerk to tow the car.
I'll look in my secret place. Hopefully, I've got a registration that shows that license plate.
Right.
I don't think I do, but I might have.
It might be on the title. Is that
Well,
right?
it'll be on the title, but we'd like to keep the title.
Right.
With the car.
I wanna
if
get
there's
a new title.
registration or something, because you
Yeah.
have to turn it in order to leave it on there without
Yeah.
paying the fee to where
Right.
it was originally on there. Otherwise, to add it on there, it's $50 a year, and it's not really original to the car at that point. So if you have anything that has the license plate with the VIN on the same paperwork, then you can go down and get it registered correctly
I'll look
right
for
out
it.
the gate.
I'll look for
If
it.
not, he's gonna have to give the title, and then you lose that title, which
Right.
you don't really want to do that.
Wow.
Avoid it.
I just kind of figured the plan with the car at this point is, it's going to live with me. We've talked about that. I've already told Mike and I don't know if I've mentioned it to Mark, but you know, the plan is to let them take it and just drive it. You know, I kind of feel like, you know, we understand the sentimental value.
Is
So
there some place I can take everybody out to dinner?
we were going to go get pizza, but so if you're up
Well,
for it.
I don't think we can fit all these people in the house.
Yeah, no. I just figured we'd go over to Round Table Pizza there on Redwood Road and buy a bunch of pizzas.
The paint, it looks different than this is not the original paint, is it?
You notice that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the new F8
No.
off the new cars.
No. Okay.
I'm surprised you noticed that.
I lived and breathed this car.
No, I know, but even like old paint would have looked different anyway. So
Yeah.
even if it was painted in the original F8, like original, it still would have come out looking nicer than it did back when you had it back in the day.
Yeah.
But he wanted to go with something that would pop a little bit more.
He
noticed it. He called it out.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
So what's been changed on this car, just so you know, is we've upgraded the carburation into the Holley throttle body fuel injection. So, and I just got
It's fuel injected now?
It's fuel injected now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it can just start up and roll at it, you know, any time instead of the problems that come with carburetor.
And it really just starts. If it's cold, it starts. If it's warm, it starts. And I just got the adapter today, so we'll have to install that to make the original tack work. It just showed up
the
today.
original air shocks that you put on
Yes.
there. Not original, but he made sure that he put the air shocks in there for you and a few other things that he wanted to leave like you had it. Like the manual steering that I tried to get him to upgrade.
I'm getting a little lightheaded. I'm going to faint on you guys.
Yeah. Well, how about we close it up and we put everybody in front of the car, we take a photo.
Okay.
And one thing that I want to do is, you know, we can send everybody on to the pizza place, but I want to drive to the Catalina house, park it in the driveway, and redo that photo that we've talked about.
With Mike, Mark. Yeah.
I'm not going to sit on the roof, but I want to stand in the driveway in the same position and redo that photo.
I think you should sit on the roof for sure.
I'll tell you, there's so many parts that, you know, people have done stuff like the windshield wiper motor. That is your original windshield wiper motor, and we sent it off to, is it Topher?
Topher McGinnis or whatever.
Topher McGinnis. Yep, Topher McGinnis. And Tony told him the story that, you know, you're a military guy and that I work with you guys and stuff. And he said, you know what? No, yeah. He said, you know what? No charge.
Yeah, you wouldn't let us pay him.
No.
God is being awful nice to me for some reason.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It's been a fun one to build. Yeah. We've had a good time with it in the shop. We've had it for what, 8 months?
Yeah, they put it together fast. I mean, we were waiting for parts more than anything. You probably would have been done in 2 months the way those guys
the metal
were going
work
at
only
it.
took 8 weeks, something like that. But the rest of the assembly.
The paint was the bigger part.
Yeah, that was a year.
Yeah. So how about we do a photo and we all go out to pizza?
Well, you drive this. I'll drive the RAV4.
Okay. Or you can ride with me and I'll bring you back. But remember, I want to go by the Catalina house.
Where's Yolanda?
She's over there freezing to death.
Hiding.
Right here.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do a group photo. You got to be in the group photo. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to move the car over here, and that way we can all stand around the car and get everybody in the photo. But we got to have everybody here in the photo. So
Look at it. Look at it. It looks brand new.
Yeah, I know.
Do we have that? There's a picture of the kids and me in the driveway.
I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, yeah. We got to do, Hold on, Dad, stay right here. Earl, how about you jump in here on my side? Davis right there.
You already hit a curve?
No, that is actually, my dad has hit the curb. That's original right there. I have hit no curbs in this car.
All right. All right.
All right.
What a family. What a family.
Let me jump in on one of these. Stay right there. Stay right there.
I'm in shock here. Give me a break.
Now we can post it on.
Yeah, we've been waiting to post this thing. Now you can post anything you want.
I thank you because
Oh,
my
yeah,
brother's been
absolutely.
telling me about all this stuff that
Absolutely.
you've been doing.
Crazy
Thank you so
Grandpa.
much.
We've enjoyed it.
Did you know about this?
No, I found out today too. They couldn't
Did you
tell
know
me.
about this?
I
I
would keep
did,
my
I
mouth.
did.
And you didn't tell me.
No, no.
Can't say anything.
I would have blown the secret.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't tell her. You know. It's good, huh?